Hi Josh, hi WV, how you all doing? Hope you're all well. Smoking Ronnie. Well, I don't know why. PA Piper, I got your email earlier on, thank you, but I didn't really have anything to add, so I didn't. Hi Mike, long time no speak, hope you're well. I have not smoked a Latakia blend in I don't know how long. And I just fancy a bit of Northwoods tonight. Must be something in the air. Something in the air tonight. $1:23 a.m. Really? I thought you were 5 hours behind us. It's 12:26 here. I didn't know that. Whereabouts are you, Mike? And so to bed, Chris. Very appropriate. Yeah. So really, I wanted to... hi Daniel, how you doing? I wanted to actually get on to ask you guys some advice. I'll get to that in a minute. About an idea that I've had. Oh, of course, you're in Switzerland. I forgot. I thought you'd gone home already. I got you now. I'm with you now. How long are you still there for, Mike? Smoking the lump of coal. Hey, downstairs. No worries. Be careful out there when you're driving. I've done that myself sometimes and it is risky, so be careful. Not something I'm proud of. But for some reason it doesn't necessarily stop me from doing it. Which town are you in, Mike? Hi Tim, how you doing? Schaffhausen. Okay. Well, there are quite a few Davidoffs in Switzerland. When I went to Zurich, I went into the Davidoff shop there as well. And I found the prices there to be absolutely ridiculous. Hey Andrew, how you doing? Hey B Analog. I think it's amazing. The outpouring of grief, the outpouring of tributes to John. It's quite amazing. I was nervous with the video that I put out earlier about the last part of my video about how we sort of make our tributes, and I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one. I see Gribbly's just put up something similar. So for a change, hopefully I won't be vilified. This is a cool tamper, and you can see it says Bosco on it. Well, I believe Savinelli have been contacted in the past about it. I'm not sure what the outcome was whilst John was alive. And that's kind of a bit close to my idea, actually. This was made by Rick Ruff of Ruff Works. You can find him on IG. And this was made along with a couple of other tampers that I had made, custom made. And he does an awesome job. He's a real craftsman. Oh yeah, he was a great storyteller, the best. So I was thinking, which is really why I've come on tonight, probably won't be on for that long. It's really, I wanted to ask you guys some advice. And I thought that if I go live, we'll get quite a few regulars, and hopefully we'll get a decent opinion. Hey, Smoking Fireman. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people wanting to, make an effort to somehow show their love for John and somehow do something for the family, or make some kind of tribute, almost like a thank you for John. So I got in touch with John's daughter, Katie, and I made a suggestion, and she went for it. She was very, very receptive of it. I suggested that I told her that I've been making pipes for a while, and I said that I would make a pipe. I would do my best to replicate the 673, the Friday Savinelli, and that I would auction it live. Once it's made, it would be inscribed with 860 on it, and that I would auction it, and that the proceeds would go to any charity of their choice. It would be up to them to do with whatever they will with the money. And she went for it straight away. So really, before I make an official announcement of it, I just wanted to run that by you guys and see what you thought about it. Or whether it would be better to maybe commission a pipe from one of the more experienced pipe makers, perhaps, to do the same kind of thing. But in any event, she certainly welcomed the idea. So I was very happy to hear that. Hey Maui, how you doing? Well, I'm actually in the process of having stamps made up of LCS briars, so that I'll have proper stamps on my pipes. And I've also I'm having a special stamp made up which will have numerical flexibility, so that means I can actually change the numbers, because I haven't yet decided. I know Josh is very much a fan of me keeping my numbering system, but I haven't decided if I'll be keeping the number system, or perhaps make some kind of code to sort of register the year that the pipe is made. But for now, certainly the idea is to be able to continue with my numbering system. So to have a stamp made for each number would be ridiculous, because it's only going to be used once. So I'm having a special custom stamp holder made, and they're actually making up numbers up to 999. And then I can actually sort of, it's like as a kid you used to get these little rubber stamp things with which you could pick out the little individual letters and numbers and put it into a little grid, which you could then dip into your ink pad and do that. So they're doing the metal equivalent of that, obviously in a much more robust housing. It's being custom made. So please God, when I get to past 999 pipes, God knows when that will be, but please God, when I do, all I will do then is add a letter in front of it or behind it, and then go through the alphabet. So that gives me certainly the ability to use that stamp for a few thousand pipes. Please God that I should actually get to that stage. Hey Geopipes, hey Sea Smokes. That's a good idea, Art. Ben, Art for Codger. Hey, Nurse Piper. Nice to meet you. Haven't seen you before. Hope you're well. Good evening, Charlotte. How you doing? So maybe, just thinking as we're going along, maybe we can actually put together some kind of 7-day set. I don't know if we'll be able to find 7 pipe makers who will be prepared to make a pipe, but perhaps different shapes, or unless you're saying 7 different auctions, all 6, 7 threes, all made by different carvers, and all personalized to commemorate John. Be interesting to see how that would work. Hey, Algonquin. Yes, he smokes. You too. Hi, Hefferville. Okay, so I will certainly reach out to Phil Rivara. I'm thinking maybe also Bullfrog Pipes, maybe Jason Mouton. So it's a question of people who, hey Mike. Who have had some kind of connection with John and feel that they want to contribute in that way. It's a question of also working out the logistics of it in terms of the auction itself and who should run the auction. Yeah, I mean, Jay Allen, it's very possible that he would. I don't know if he would. His pipes are worth a fortune. And whether he would be prepared to do that, it's definitely worth a try. I don't know if he has any connection at all with John. You don't generally see any interaction between Jay Allen, Jeff Graysick, that is, and the YTPC. He does do some videos occasionally, instructional videos on pipe making, but interaction on the YTPC, I'm not sure. The Dagners, I'm sure they would contribute a pipe, but I'm talking about people making a pipe. They wouldn't make a pipe. They have plenty of made pipes, but I can't see them making a pipe. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did their own kind of tribute. But I'm more than happy to entertain any kind of contribution from people. Eddie at the Pipe Nook again, he will have 673s which he could give and donate. That might be an idea, to have actual 673s and get those engraved, maybe. Yeah, you can imagine. YTPC. YTPC. That was better. Imitation is the best form of flattery. So yeah, that's a nice idea, Daniel. I'm not sure how you would actually there's lots of different tributes that you can make. I think that in terms of funds and the money, I would say that I would put the money in the hands of the family and let them do as they see fit. I think that will be the most respectful way to present this. And that's how I presented it to Katie, and that's how she accepted it. And I think you can read between the lines there. So really, I'm just trying to, really thinking as we speak here now. So I'm really open to suggestions, practical suggestions, how to actually run this. And like I said, Chris, I'm not looking to make suggestions as to what they do with the money. I'm going to completely leave that to them. And if they want to give it to a charity, if they want to donate it to something, if they want to use it towards something that John would have contributed to, whatever, it makes no difference to me at all. It's for them to decide what they, to do as they see fit. They have no obligation to do anything in particular with it. It's their choice. I wouldn't want to encourage them either way as to how they should spend it. So I think that's going to have to be the first step, is to be in touch with as many carvers as possible. Let me just make a note and we'll start writing down some names for people to get in touch with. So we have Phil Rivara, Jason Mouton, well, certainly John was one of the presenters on the Briar Report website. But I don't know how you would do an auction on a website unless it was live. But certainly, I'm sure that Phil at the Briar Report will promote it. I don't have any doubt in that respect. Hey, Pipehead. Yes, you can do a joint live. I did that once myself actually with Matches and Eddie Gray at the Pipe Nook. It was good fun. We had a joint live session for, I don't know, it was about half an hour, 45 minutes, and it was kind of new. But it was interesting, an interesting format. I can't remember what the software was called. I mean, it was through YouTube, but oh no, it wasn't. It was Hangouts. I think. I think it was Hangouts. I think it was Google Hangouts. Hey George. Hey, yeah. I don't know if he had retired or was about to retire, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know the details, and it's not important to me really. CSC Smokes. StreamYard. But it would have to be something that was streamable on YouTube, because it has to be something that people will know and will be familiar with and will be able to interact with. Yeah, Daniel, I did see that message before. As I say, I think it really needs to be it's like Google Hangouts, but can that be live on YouTube? Right, okay, fine. Okay, I'll look into that, Grobno. So any other names? So you wouldn't have to necessarily have everybody being linked into it. You need to have the people who are doing the auction. So if there's, let's say, 4, 5, 6 carvers who are going to be auctioning off those pipes, that's the amount that you need to actually be live, and the rest would, and one of the people I guess would be the host, and that would stream. Well, it may well be that'll be enough if 6 is the limit. As I say, the streaming would have to be on YouTube. If other people, if through StreamYard we can join a few people, those people who are actually doing the carving, so they can be live, and then the rest of YouTube can watch that, I think that would be okay. But I think that in terms of logistics, keeping it simple would be better. The more complicated you make it, the more thin you spread it, the less chance of making decent money would be, I think, as well. So I think that what I would prefer to do, to make it simple, so you don't have multiple people, multiple auctions, multiple addresses to have to send money to, different PayPal accounts. I think what I would like to do, I'm just reading all your messages now, and I think that I'm going to keep it really, really simple. And I'm going to contact as many carvers as I can, and please just type out names that you can think of that's worth my while getting in touch with. And I'm going to ask them if they'd be prepared to make a pipe to be auctioned. I will ask them to send me the pipe, and I will do a multiple auction on my channel. It will be well announced in advance, and everybody could get on board. I think that's the simple Simplest way to do it. Everybody can still get in on it. Any carver that wants to be involved can still be involved in that way, and I think that would be that. Corey pipes. eBay's a good idea. eBay's not a bad idea. I would still do it the same way though. I would still ask them to send me the pipe and I'll just run the eBay listings. I could do videos in advance showing the pipes in detail. Obviously plenty of pictures on eBay. The only difference between that is that it will lose a little bit of that personal involvement. You know, people that want to be live, people that want to be involved. There'll be a lot of chat around the auction, during the auction. So there'll be a bit of a spectacle, if you like, which people can get involved in. On eBay, nobody's involved. There's no community, there's no chat, there's no discussion about John. That's the only downside to that, but it's a good idea. Yeah, agreed. The family might want to see the auction as well. Cigar 77. Northern Bohemian is a breed on his own, and he's got some extreme sense of humour, which you either get or you don't. You might say it's inappropriate. And if you sort of said to him that it's inappropriate, he'll say he wasn't talking about anybody in particular. But you've got to get the irony of his humour. It's extreme. It's not for everybody, that's for sure. Yeah, I've been hearing that Chicago is a bit of a mess this year. Nobody knows where it's all up in the air at the moment, isn't it? Olive wood piper, that's a good idea. That would actually be nice. Speaking of olive wood piper, for him to make one out of olive wood, a 673, that would be something different, because there'll be briar ones. Yeah, you can record it. You can download, depending on the way you normally do it. But certainly, it can be recorded. It can be downloaded. Stephen Downey. Which comment, Kevin? You're talking about Bohemian? I'm not condoning what he did. I'm just saying what he's like in case people don't know who he is. John Keller's a great idea, Chad. Chris Morgan, maybe. I don't know. Joe Case is not really making pipes anymore, but maybe he'll be interested in doing it. Michael Parks, maybe. Again, I don't see, I don't know if we can approach every single high grade pipe maker out there. I'm not really looking at the high graders. I'm not sure how interested they'll be, but you never know. Yeah, so people like Nate King, as I say, it's a bit of a long shot, but you never know. People are really generous. I mean, the other possibility is simply to contact pipe sellers like Eddie Gray and perhaps Danish Pipe Shop, GQ Tobaccos. I'm sure many of them would be happy to donate a pipe. But whether you'd get, the 673 is not a particularly expensive pipe, but if you're just going to get 673s from shops, or if you're going to get factory pipes, I'm not sure how well the auction will do. If they're if they're made by artisan pipers and each one has its own take by that particular carver, I think it has a certain charm, it has a certain elitism to it, which will be attractive to people who will be prepared to buy. Yeah, I mentioned Jeremiah Bullfrog pipes. Tim West, yeah. Even Wiseman, never heard of him, but okay. Okay, so the names that I've got so far are Phil Rivara, Jason Mouton, Corey Pipes, Oliver Piper, Stephen Downey, Joe Davis, Chris Morgan, Joe Case, John Keller, Michael Parks, Nate King, Sean Rayom, Bullfrog Pipes, Tim West, and Evan Weissman. I think that's a good number to be getting on with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and myself 16. I've never made a 673 myself, but I think everybody will make their own take on the pipe. Eldritch, maybe. I thought about him, but I just wasn't sure how connected he was or whether he'd be interested, but definitely worth asking. I can do that. I could ask people like Northern Briars and Mike Billington from Blakemar. There's no harm in asking. Brian Doran, yeah. I'm not sure whether he would be into doing that kind of shape, but definitely worth an ask. I think, Daniel, we're not just looking for names off a list. It's really about people who might have had interactions, people who are quite current on the YTPC, people who I don't want to just spend time contacting loads and loads of people. I want to have a fair chance of success. I don't mind putting in the work and the time, but at least I want it to have some chance of success. So I want to really first, initially at least, focus on the people that are current and are well known, not charging $2,000 for a pipe. So it's got to be the type of people who are making pipes, I would say, between the $100 and $300 range, that kind of thing. Beyond that, I think it's too big of an ask. We can ask, but I think initially I want to focus on contacting the people that it's likely to get a favourable response. Yeah, there was a contact with Savinelli in the past, as I was mentioning before. Um, so, in terms of calling it the Friday Savinelli, that I think was there was a reach out made to Savinelli, and they do commemorative pipes. I think the answer at the time was that it couldn't the numbers couldn't justify it, and when they make runs of pipes, they're doing them in the hundreds of thousands generally. I mean, there are obviously autograph pipes and things like that which are not made to that extent, but I think I'm trying to remember the number that was a minimum run, and you're talking about in the scores of thousands. I think the minimum run was maybe something like 20 or 30,000, maybe. I honestly can't remember. I might have it completely wrong, but at the time it just wasn't viable. But I'll certainly get in touch with them again and ask them about it. Yeah, 500. I'm sure they could, but I just don't think they would do it for that necessarily. But you never know. I mean, the one plus is that they wouldn't have to make a new mold, a new template, because it's the 673 KS. So it's just about personalization of the pipe, I think. So in that respect, see, I don't want to confuse the ideas. So if we're doing one idea of auction, that's one thing. If Savinelli were to sort of look on it favourably, then maybe I could talk to them about some kind of personalisation of the pipes, get some kind of, put a feeler out there and see how many people would be prepared to pay for it. I'll be honest with you, I think we'd struggle. I think we would struggle to sell 500 pipes, as much as people are well-meaning. And I think it would take a long time to sell 500 pipes, because if it's a personalised pipe, that means it's a limited edition. That means Savinelli are going to be wanting somewhere in the regions of $100 to $200 for it. I can't see them, especially if they put a bit of silver on it, I can't see them selling it for less than that. The 673 retails, normal retail, you can get them cheaper, but their RRP, their recommended retail price, is probably somewhere between $80 and $100. So if they're going to make a limited version of it, if they're going to, yeah, sure, Mike, I'll do that. But I think it might be beyond a lot of people. A lot of smokers out there, they're not in the market to be able to just fork out a couple $100 just like that. And if we want to get the biggest response, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Yeah, quite a lot of people are suggesting, Haunted Bookshop obviously would be a candidate for a tribute name. But, we've got to be realistic about it. I don't know how much people like Greg Pease would have had any interaction with John. It's very possible that he did, and he might be completely up for it. FDA, exactly, Mike, that would be an issue. It wouldn't have to be a new recipe, but if you're renaming, I don't know if you have to register it. But at the moment, it's all up in the air anyway. I don't think anybody's registering new blends anyway. There's new blends coming out all the time. $100 would be a good price point. It really would depend on Savinelli. Yeah, 100%, Mike. If the new regulations come into play, then new names, anything, any change would need a registration. And you're looking at an absolute fortune. There's no way anybody's going to do it. Now, if the FDA regulations do come into play, I think you're going to see quite a tightening and refining of people's inventory of blending houses. They will be refining their blends, and you've got companies like GLPs, when they've got so many blends which are very, very similar with a slight tweak, and they give it a new name, that's all going to stop. That will stop if they're, because every single blend is going to be costing them thousands and thousands of dollars to register, and it will take them forever till they get them approved. If we really, really don't want the FDA rules to come into play, so many things are going to happen as a result. It's not just the money. The money is going to be restrictive. All of the boutique blends, dead, finished. All of the boutique cigars, dead, finished. The trade, the industry is going to just take an absolute nosedive if the FDA comes into it. And I can't see any company taking the risk by starting a new blend now to commemorate somebody on the YTPC. I just don't see it. If there aren't any blends out there commemorating, much more famous pipe smokers in the world, there isn't an Einstein blend that I'm aware of, and realistically, Einstein has a much greater appeal, a much wider appeal in the world, not necessarily to the YTPC. I think John probably has a wider appeal in the YTPC of today, but in terms of the world, and the YTPC is just a drop in the ocean of the world's pipe smokers. So to prove that, the YTPC itself is quite widely spread. I was quite shocked and quite surprised. I don't know why, but I just was, when I did my video today, which was my second video on John. I got comments on the video saying I had no idea, and my mind was blown that the same people who subscribe to me don't subscribe to some of the big players out there who put out videos talking about John's passing. It just surprised me. I don't know why, it just did. So quite clearly, the YTPC itself is spread across a wide spectrum of people, and not. There's plenty of people I'm not subscribed to, and there's plenty of people who are not subscribed to me, but there are some big players out there who have got big subscriptions. There's people who have written comments on my videos. I didn't know who John was. I never heard of him before. And that blew my mind. It literally blew my mind. Mike, would that, making it as a flake, wouldn't that be the same problem if the FDA came in? Hey Kirk, hi BA. My mouth is as dry as a dog's dinner. I don't have a drink. Bypasses the rules, really? Okay. Oh, in the old days, the dogs used to eat these little pellets. I don't know where that saying comes from, but it's an old saying here in the UK anyway. There you go, Herferville's dogs eat dry. Mike, you still on? When you gone? Mike Blocker. Just seen your picture you just sent me. Definitely good. Your dog just eats. Your cat was looking very cute last night, Mike. I didn't know you had a cat. She was just wanting to shake your hands all the time, and you just basically blew her off each time. You're a nasty cat father, you are. And a partridge in a pear tree. John had a whole cabinet full of pipes. He had a fantastic cabinet there. But 673 I became iconic as the Friday Savinelli. And there was a point I wanted to make in my video, which I completely forgot about when I was making the video. And my video style making completely against John's advice always, which was to be prepared. So I forgot that point, and that was I felt that one of the reasons why John was so relatable is one of the points that I made was how relatable he was to across the ages, all different age smokers. But one of the reasons was his, and I'm sure Ben, the Artful Codger, would support this, and Eric, was that he smoked unfinished pipes, he smoked old codger pipes, he smoked really old, no-name pipes, and I think that also made it very, there's a lot of people, myself included, who like to smoke fancy-looking pipes, and there's certain unmentionable people, we won't mention their names, who love to smoke Castello pipes, and for some people that's unobtainable, some of those pipes, and I think that he made it okay to smoke an old pipe. He made it okay to smoke an unfinished briar. His original Friday Savinelli was not a 673 lucite. It was a 673 unfinished, I think, with a plain acrylic or ebonite stem. And I think the most recent Friday Savinelli was one of those as well. So I think that was very cool as well. And that was, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But I could see it being intentional because he planned everything. Interestingly, okay, I won't say that. But he planned, he made preparations for his videos, and you could tell, like I said in my video earlier today, there isn't a wasted minute on his recorded videos. Everything was so informational, so interesting, so useful and practical. It was just, I think, a generosity of spirit. Hi, Naptown. You're sitting on an LCS. Well, you're puffing an LCS. Well, Mike, that's an early LCS. As the saying goes, you ain't seen nothing yet. Actually, I've got a little collection of these contrasty kind of pipes building up. I redid this one here. This is the one that I've smoked already. Just look at that. Redid the poker with a blue stem. Just look at the grain. Just look at that grain. This one, by the way, Mike, I used your the ink that you sent me, the stain that you sent me, the red and the yellow. I had to play around with it at first, but this is what resulted. It's not a whole lot different to what I was doing before, but it's got a different, slightly different hue to it. Check out the tight bird's eye on that one. This pipe is actually spoken for. I'm donating this pipe to to the Nottingham Pipe Show to be auctioned, to go in their raffle rather. So that's I've already sent pictures of it to Toking Tommy, and he's delighted. So that one's gone. And then there's the Volcano, of course. That's that one. And this one. This one I was actually thinking, because I've already tightened up the shape a little bit, but I was actually thinking of curving this all the way around up to the hole and making it into kind of an acorn kind of shape, but I haven't really decided if I should do that or not. I kind of like a flat top as well. This is actually a beautiful pipe. That's a nice pipe. I mean, they're all nice. And this is still one of my favourite ones which I've made recently, which is a copy of the Northern Brides Quebec. A taller, slimmer version, lightweight. Anyway, this isn't about my pipes. Alright, Be Analog, all the best. Thank you very much. Be Analog, if you could drop me an email so that I can be in touch with you, I'd appreciate it. boscopiperuk@gmail.com. Northern Bohemian is in the room. I didn't see him. Hi Scott Free. I did see Northern Bohemian's video. It wasn't, to my understanding, it wasn't on matches, but it was a fairly typical dry, wry sense of irony and sense of humour from Northern Bohemian. Do I think it was in bad taste? Yes. Do I think that he should be reported for it? Probably not. That's his sense of humour. I don't condone it, but I've learnt that with his style of presentation is just not of this world, for want of a better way of putting it. He's a strange chap, in an interesting kind of way. Reporting as hateful content, I think that was the whole point of his video. To say it was pointed at matches, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning it. You're missing the whole humour, and that may be screwed up humour, yes, but it so wasn't pointed at matches. And the whole irony of it is that he's utilised this terrible tragedy and sadness to make an ironic video, and that's his sense of humour. It's a warped sense of humour, but that's his sense of humour. So I personally wouldn't have reported it as hate content, but it's a matter of how you take it, I suppose. His content is very thought through. It's a lot of it is very subliminal, and it's you can't take it on face value. That's for sure. You cannot take his videos on face value. There's more to it than the face value of his videos. Hi Jeffrey Feinberg, how are you doing? I'm very well, I hope you are well. Backcountry Pipe, hi. Well, Paul, just check out his channel and you'll see. Hi Tree, how you doing? Hey Calvin Piper, Ghost Cub, how you doing? Hi, Sean. Yes, well, classless is. I hear where you're coming from. It's the very at the very extremes of humour. Let's put it that way. It's extreme humour, and it's what you'd call extreme bad taste humour. If you go to some of the shock jock kind of comedians, you know, people who, if you listen to, who was it who made the joke after 9/11? CK, what's his name? CK Lewis? Is it CK Lewis his name? I forget. I mean, he made the joke, I'm not going to repeat it, but he made a joke about the Twin Towers, you know. I wouldn't have done it, but, you know, there are comedians out there who will just take the worst situations. I remember jokes about after when Lady Diana died, you know, and people would make a joke and then say at the end, too soon? You know, that's the whole joke, that's the punchline, too soon. It's humour, you know, humours have their extremes, and people will use very, very tough situations for humour. The reason why it hurts us so much and why we're offended by it is because we had so much respect for John. If God forbid somebody lost a family member and then somebody comes along after the funeral and makes a joke about it, you'd want to shoot the guy. But that is exactly what it is. The reason why we take it so much to heart is because we felt close to John, and that's it. Maybe I'm just too tolerant, I don't know. You know, maybe the lines get blurred. But I think also you have to know the presenter a little bit. And if you've watched his presentations over the years, you'd get it a little bit more. It doesn't justify it, I'm not saying it's right, but there it is. Sorry, Louis C.K., that's who I was thinking of. And, you know, Bill Burr, for instance, you know, he's also the same kind of comedian who will use extremes sometimes to get a laugh. That's what people are like, you know. You like it or not, that's what people are like. Anthony Jeselnik, you know, these are people who are completely politically incorrect when it comes to comedy. And I think it's in that vein. It is in bad taste, I agree, but it's in that vein that video was made, and it does go to, it offends our senses of decency. That's exactly what's intended. That's the intention of those videos. Sean, yeah, I think you make a good point. I don't think I surround myself with his videos. You know, it's just something else which contributes to your overall life experience. You know, you get a broad spectrum of information in your life, and it kind of feeds into your life experience. It feeds into your groundedness. It feeds, you know, it gives you a broader spectrum of life experience. You know, there are some people that go too far, There's nothing to be sorry about, Sean. It's absolutely fine. I think it's perfectly. Everybody has their limit. Everybody has their limit on what's sensible, decent, and not decent. I agree that it's not. It's in bad taste. I personally wouldn't have put such a video out, not in a million years, and I don't particularly. I'm not a particular supporter of his type of humour, but it doesn't mean to say that he doesn't have the right to have that kind of sense of humour. I wouldn't report it personally as hate speech. It's not my taste. It's not what I would do. It's not racist. It's not. He hasn't even said that who the video is about. It's obvious that it's playing on John's passing, but it's the irony of it, like I said before. Absolutely, Carving Piper, it's our choice. You don't like it, just unsub. 100%. Yeah, 100%, Mike. It's clickbait. That's the bottom line. That's exactly the right two words to describe it. It's clickbait. Much as his continuous chant of "please unsubscribe me." But you know what? If you have a look at his subscription count, it hasn't gone up. It hasn't got a particularly high. I mean, it's 12 or 1300, and that's about it. It's been like that for a while. I don't think anybody's a part of it, Sean. I don't think anybody's a part or nobody subscribes to his humour. I'm not here to condone it. I'm not supporting it. I'm just putting across my understanding of where it's coming from. I'm not saying it's nice. I'm saying it's in bad taste, 100%. Monty Python-esque? I think it's beyond that, personally. It is mental, I suppose. Yeah, I think you could go that far, but I think it's humour in the extreme, and he's doing it to shock. He's doing it to attract the views, as you say. I mean, just the title alone just made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Even before I'd watched the video, to me, the title was the most offensive part of it. I reeled when I saw the title. I really did. And my first thought was, oh my god, when I saw the title. And to me, actually, the video itself is an anticlimax. I found the video to be quite boring. Hi Joanne, I'll send you my email address. That's the best way. Yeah, I understand you, Paul. It's not really. It's a version of humour. It's not my type of humour. I think it goes too far, and I think that it plays on people's heartstrings. At a time like this, when the pain and the sadness that people are feeling is so raw, it's so fresh, and to do it, to me, I agree. As I said, I'm not condoning this. If I'm coming across as somebody who's supporting it, I'm not. I get it. Doesn't mean I support it. I've interacted with John, and he's he has a lot of strong opinions on a lot of things. I don't agree with a lot of it, but I certainly I can see that Sergeant Savinelli's just uploaded a video, which I'm glad to see, because I was really worried about the fact that we hadn't seen a video from him, and I hope he was okay, so I'm going to watch that soon. Captain Clench, yeah, 100%. If he's deleting videos, he will certainly go down in my esteem lower than he has been. That's for sure. You know, if he's gonna, as you say, if he's gonna put out distasteful stuff like that, but not have the courage to leave people's comments out there, then that's quite hypocritical, really. Anyway, as Mike said, I think it's enough discussion about him. We're here to really celebrate John's life, not somebody's warped sense of humour. So, even though I get where he's coming from, you know, but I think it's a step too far. So let's move on. So, as I said before, in terms of the whole Friday Savinetti pipe thing, I think the way to go is I'm going to make contact with Daniel. That's a very nice idea. I'm sure a lot of people are going back on his a lot of his output and rewatching them. I did that when my brain ain't functioning. When Danny Shaw passed away, I went through some of his older videos. Hi Pipes, etc. How you doing? Where are you getting all of those cartoons from that you're sticking on IG, man? Daniel, Mike probably would be able to answer that better than me. I haven't got a great experience with American old codger blends, but I would probably say that if I had to give an answer, it would be, my gut feeling is that today's OTCs, the over-the-counter blends, are probably better quality than previously. That's just my gut instinct. But I'm sure a lot of people. I'm talking in terms of the actual tobacco leaf itself and how it's presented. I think a lot of the current OTC blends are presented in a to me anyway, in Europe. I don't know about America, but certainly a lot of them are like broken flakes, and to me that smacks of more of a quality kind of presentation. Whereas I think a lot of the OTCs, especially the aromatic ones, a lot of them are just sort of lower end of the scale in terms of quality and just drenched in aromatics. I guess they smoke those because they like them. I saw your recent pipes, Sea Smokes. That church warden that you made is really cool looking. Interesting shapes in your pipes, really. Oh wow. Erin Moore, Condor, St. Bruno, chocolate flake, plum cake, all mixed together. And it tastes of... Hey Bona. I'm assuming, C Smokes, that all your shapes are done by hand, and you're not. I take it you don't use a lathe at all. Tastes like feet. It wouldn't surprise me. It tastes great. Oh my! I'll be honest with you. Any Frankenstein blend that I've made in the past has never tasted good. I haven't seen any classic shapes of yours yet, Sea Smokes. Be interesting to see that. Well, people, my niece actually got married. I mentioned it. My niece got married a couple of days ago, and I shot the wedding. I did the photos at the wedding, which was very cool. Enjoyed it very, very much. But tomorrow night there's a party, a family party, a get together, which is part of the whole wedding celebration. There's probably going to be maybe 100 or so people there, and I'm officially the main speaker, so I've got to come up with a speech. I've got a couple of opening lines, and that's where I'm up to at the moment. Just a few jokes to start the speech off before I get into the actual speech itself. But that's as far as I've got. Hey Tillerman. So it's now 1:30. Oh dear me, I'm tired. And I should still be adding to that speech. So I think I really ought to say good night or good morning. To be honest, the original purpose of tonight was just to get on for about 10 minutes and talk about the idea that I'd had. We've now been on for... Wow. Seriously? An hour and a quarter? That's crazy. You made a pot, very nice pot pipe. Thanks, Andrew. You're still here, nice. Okay, so thanks everybody for joining. Thanks Herferville, thanks Andrew, thanks C Smokes, thanks Carver, thanks Kevin, thanks Tillerman, thanks Daniel, thanks Paul, Mike, Naptown, Josh, Daniel, Carving Piper, Kevin, Pipes etc., Chris Garcia, Captain Clench, Jovan. I wonder if it's pronounced Jovan. Thanks everybody. Thanks Bona. Thanks for joining. And thanks everybody for all their amazing videos and good wishes. You know, it's something I say always when sadly somebody passes away. You know, you start off when it's raw, when it's fresh. It's an extremely searing pain, and you sort of go through a stage where you just think, how am I going to get over this? How am I going to get past this? How am I going to continue without this person? And the blessing that I always give to people is, I hope that you very quickly move from that stage to the next stage, which is celebrating that person's life and remembering them for who they were, remembering the good times, remembering the contribution that they made on earth, and you could then enjoy their companionship. You know, because once you get past that painful part, because the truth of the matter is, why are you painful? Why are you sad? Are you sad for the person that died? Or are you sad for yourself? Really and truly, we're sad for ourselves. Because if you really want to analyze it, because at the end of the day, the person that's died, they've died. They're gone. They're not in pain. They're not suffering. If, for instance, a person passes away as a result of an illness and goes through a really hard, painful illness, you can be sad for that pain and sad for that terrible time that they had, and you can feel for them, you can empathize for them, but that all stops when they pass away. So why are we sad? It's worth analyzing. We're actually sad for ourselves. As I say, the concept of passing away from this world, whether you believe in a next world or not, but when a person passes away from this world, the actual sort of passing itself is an upsetting situation. It's a situation which is, there's a transition from a person being a collection of atoms, and I know I'm saying this in a very sort of graphic kind of way, but they're a collection of atoms with a soul which brings them to life, which gives them life. When that passes, depending on as I say, your belief structure, whether they live in another form or not, but in reality, why are we sad? We're sad for our loss. We're sad for the lack of companionship. We're sad for the very fact, the concept that we've been brought up with over the past sort of maybe 100 years or so, because before that, death was a fact of life. That's ironic, but that's the reality. Death was very, very much a much more common scenario. People rarely lived beyond 50 years old. I'd say rarely, but certainly it was far more common for people to die well before the age of 50, and it was an accepted part of life. But now, because of the advent of medicine and because people live so much longer, we can't rationally contemplate our death. And if you, somebody, for instance, at the age of, God forbid, say at the age of 30, no age at all, suddenly became very ill, and they knew it was terminal, and they knew they were going to die, you could understand, number one, everybody being terribly much in pain and upset about it because of the suffering of that person, and that person, you could understand also being extremely fearful and being terrified of the actual time of passing, the actual moment of passing, because it's something which is unknown. But the interesting thing is that when you get to know or interact with people, say in their 90s, and they know that they haven't got long left, they might, we all think we're invincible and we think we're going to live to a ripe old age of 110 years old, but the reality is that most people don't reach 90, 95. So somebody who's 90 years old knows that he's got limited time left on this earth, but very often you won't see them panicking, you won't see them being fearful, and you'll see them having come to terms with the fact that that they're going to pass. And you will also see that people who are close to death, sometimes it can be a very painful and fearful and panicky kind of experience, but a lot of times it's a very calm kind of experience, especially in people who have lived a full life, and they're at peace with the fact that they're going to pass, and the whole process is a much more peaceful process. So when we say that we're sad and when we have had a lot of loss, it's really our own. Yes, death, absolutely, Daniel, it leaves a trail of destruction, broken hearts, loneliness, pain. Yes, death is very nasty, but it's not nasty to the person that's died once they've died. So my blessing always to people, as I was saying before, my blessing always to people is that when I'm speaking to the next of kin or the people who are affected by somebody passing, the blessing I always give is that I wish them a very speedy transition from that first phase, which we have to go through. That first phase is critical. in the Jewish tradition, there's a week of mourning, a 7-day period which is called Shiva, which actually means, in Hebrew, Shiva means seven, the number seven, because there's a period of 7 days of mourning, and it's an obligatory 7 days of mourning, and you're actually very restricted in what you can do. A person that works for a living, if they're Orthodox Jewish person, they have to stop working for that week, and it's because you're forced into that period of really extreme mourning, and it kind of is a cathartic process, because it helps you even subliminally, subconsciously, to move over from that stage of painful mourning over to that stage of celebratory mourning. Celebratory, for some people it might be a strong word. It takes longer to celebrate. You're not celebrating the death, of course, you're celebrating the life of that person. But that's always my wish to people, is that they swiftly move. That transitional period should be swift, and they should be able to look back and celebrate the life of that person that's passed. So I will end off by saying, as I said in my video earlier today, I wish John's family a very, very speedy transition from the pain and sorrow that they feel at the moment, that loss, that feeling of wilderness and loneliness. And I hope that first of all, that they should take a lot of succor and comfort from all of the amazing outpouring of tributes and support and sadness from the YTPC, even though the YTPC probably for them is something which is really not that close to their hearts, even though, Katie says in her messages that she loves everybody on the YTPC for what they gave to her father. And she's very grateful for that, but somehow I don't think that we were that important to the rest of his family, and I'm not sure that pipe smoking was that important to the rest of her family. I actually don't really know, but they certainly will take a lot of support from these videos, and as I say, I hope that they very quickly move over to that sort of stage of celebrating the life. And it's the point I was trying to make at the outset, was that when you move over to that stage of celebrating a person's life, then you're actually able to have them as a companion for the rest of your life. So even though physically they're not there, they continue to be with you, because you're actually remembering them in a positive way. In that initial phase, when you're feeling destroyed and you're feeling completely torn apart by the sorrow and by the fact that they have left, that's how you feel. You feel that they've left, so you feel alone, you feel lonely. Once you get past that pain and you can start to celebrate and think about them in a positive way, they've no longer left. They are with you, but in memory, in a virtual way. And so therefore that blessing is really important, that they get over that first stage as quickly as possible, and then they can then continue to live with that person in some way at least. Anyway, thank you very much everybody for joining me. I wish you all well, and I will catch you on the next one. All the best everybody.